Hey there, everybody. Thank you again for another special episode of the LymeBoss podcast. You might recognize my guest, as this is the second time I've had him on, and I've actually never had a repeat guest before, but I had so much fun with him the first time. And before we even got off the last time, he was like, let's do another one and talk about forever chemicals. And at the time I was like, no, I'm not sure I'm going to keep my podcast going, but then who am I kidding? Like, I absolutely love this stuff and bringing this type of information out. Like, how could I not? So then I had to chase Dr. Todd down again and be like, come back, please, because we need to talk about this, right? Like, and I was telling him what a beautiful coincidence that like the Denver Post article just came out today talking about the forever chemicals that have contaminated the Colorado's drinking water because of the wildfires that we had in the last couple seasons. The foam that they spray for the wildfires is actually a forever chemical, and it's ending up in our drinking water. So I love Dr. Todd Watts and Cell Core Protocol. That's like my go-to protocol for everything because it's beautiful. There's like not anything out there that deals with heavy metals, parasites, Lyme, co-infections, mold, and toxins all in one beautiful laid out protocol. And this man knows what he's talking about because he came from his own personal experience with Lyme disease. So enough. Dr. Todd, thank you again for joining me again. Let's talk about some forever chemicals and why should we care?
Well, it goes back to the chemicals are a big part of what creates disease in our body. And when you look at, one of my favorite subjects, the mitochondria, and it's massively impacted by these chemicals, as well as then which impacts our immune system, impacts our energy levels, impacts our hormones and neurotransmitters, enzymatic reactions, digestion, all kinds of things that processes in our body that can be completely disrupted due to these toxins that we're exposed to. Not only the forever chemicals, this basically fluoride or fluoride-based chemicals, but also when you look at all the sprays that they're doing. So we're exposed to them from our water, to our food, to the air, furniture, clothes. I mean, it's amazing what these chemicals, everything's sprayed with. And that's where I won't even wear clothes unless I wash it first, because if you can tell the smells on something, they're just so strong, and these chemicals are spraying off stuff. And as you can see there, it's affecting the water supply, which then you're drinking, which then affects your microbiome, which then can affect your digestion, also the ability to then create the proteins and create the hormones and neurotransmitters that your body needs to be healthy.
So how are these toxins, toxic to us? Besides just like the obvious, like like I said, so why should we care about these toxins in our body? How do they affect things? And like, there's a lot of folks talking about even like heavy metals and other things being, one of the leading causes of diabetes that like nobody's talking about. So wow, what are the different aspects in our body that these chemicals are disrupting?
So there's several ways that they do. Similar to metals, a lot of chemicals have metals in them and different elements that will bind to enzymes, or they'll bind and knock off other elements that create and form complexes that then create a ton of free radicals or oxidative stress, which then causes damage to the cells, damage to the mitochondria. Also, it can inhibit enzymes that are supposed to then convert and make things happen. For example, glyphosate, there's over 291 enzymes that it affects. And so when you get into these forever chemicals, they're going to be in our environment for a long, they say it forever, right? We can't clear them out. So then what do you do to not get exposure? It's almost impossible now to not get exposure. And even though there's only 42,000 plus active chemicals registered with the EPA currently, there's over 86,000 chemicals in total, and a lot of those are the forever chemicals. So even if we stop the use of them 20 years ago, they're still in our environment, and that's part of the complaint. Is that, like, how do we get them? How do we clear them? And then as we get exposed to them, it downregulates all the functions in our body. And not only does it downregulate function, but it also should really massively affect our microbiome, which is what makes a healthy person. Right? I always refer to a healthy microbiome as a healthy you. And so if you're doing that by drinking or eating, getting exposed to this stuff, then it's going to start affecting the ability to digest, the ability to assimilate nutrients, the ability to create the proteins and the enzymes that we need for a healthy body.
Basic energy of the body. Yeah, absolutely. So where are some of the places that we get, in more contact with forever chemicals? Like what are some of the more toxic areas that we could possibly avoid? Or
well, I think that goes back to when you're seeing the aspect of water.
right.
So water is a key element to me, and that's where it's very controversial out there. Like, well, you need to use RO, you need to use distilled water, you need to do a Berkey filter, you need to do this filter, that filter. The filters don't get them all out. That's the problem, and they're only tested for 55 gallons of water. They're not tested for thousands of gallons of water that go through these filters. So the efficacies from my research didn't show very good, especially on the carbon filters. But when you're really considering the best, cleanest water out there, well, what kind of water do you put into all your machines that you have to use? Your CPAP machine, nasal rinses, the different medical machines, it's distilled water. It's not RO water. That's because it's the cleanest. It takes it from one form, a liquid form, to a gas form and then back into liquid. And so it's able to get the majority of the chemicals out in that direction. And it's amazing because I've seen patients in my clinic and the clients I've had that have had massive either fatigue issues for a long time, and or another one had gut issues and stomach pain. Another one had a skin condition that when I changed their water, all of a sudden, well, reversed by going on distilled water. Another recent patient of mine that I've had for a long time, she got on distilled water, and all the anxiety that she had for years slowly went away. I was traveling, came back, didn't get distilled water. Within 2 weeks, her anxiety was back. Went back on distilled water again and resolved it. So there's a chemical in her water that was creating the problems with driving anxiety in the body and brain. So
I've heard that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like stuff like RO and even distilled water, then it becomes like a dead water, right? That there's no natural minerals to it, and that it can be kind of acidic to our body and can end up causing us to leach minerals out of teeth and hair and bones to realkalinize our system. Like how do you deal with that with the distilled water?
It's a great question. So what is pH? pH is a measurement of millivolts, how much potential hydrogen. So if we're trying to go up more alkaline, then that's more hydroxy ion versus the hydrogen ion. Water is water. It breaks up into oxygen and hydrogen. And that's the whole point of the charged particles in our body. The minerals that are in water are inorganic minerals, not necessarily bioavailable at the right valence of charges that's utilized for our cells. So, here, if the water sprays up on my windshield or on my car, I get hard water spots. How digestible and how assimilated are those minerals? Not very good. The best source of minerals comes from our food sources. And if you feel like you're not getting it, my kids have been drinking distilled water. My whole family's distilled water. No health issues. In fact, even better health. But we'll use minerals. We'll add plant-based minerals into our water intake in our diet. I'm really that concerned. Dead water, meaning, okay, hey, I need alkalized water. What does that even mean? Does it alkalize our body? What does that mean to alkalize our body? It's a whole other subject.
Right.
Being acidic, being acidic, goes the question is like, well, the distilled water is 7.0 pH. And if it gets exposed to the air, then it can drop down a little bit below that. But it's not acidic, like people are saying acidic, like lemon water. So if we're alkalizing our body by putting lemon into our water and making it a pH of 2, then how's that alkalizing our body? These people don't know what they're talking about when it comes to alkalinity and stuff. So it's a big misnomer, and what really is the problem is a mitochondrial dysfunction, meaning that we're driving lactic acidosis versus driving aerobic respiration versus anaerobic respiration. And it's something that people put out there and made popular, and it's scientifically inaccurate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to clarify I can't stand the whole alkalinizing water, thing that's gone on over the past couple decades, because if you think about it, your stomach is supposed to be acidic. You do not want to alkalize anything that you're drinking and screwing up the ability to digest and break down your food, people. Like, come on. But yeah, no, I was yeah, so thank you for clarifying that. And I used to just kind of always irk me a little bit. Like, I wish at the reverse osmosis centers and Whole Foods and stuff like that, I wish they would sell minerals, next to it, just to kind of, hey, if you're going to drink water this way. But I didn't even realize that the minerals that were in, regular water were not that bioavailable. So learning all kinds of things.
You think about it, organic, and what it does to your shower walls, your windows,
Right.
when sprinklers hit it, your car, how it destroys. Like it, the charges of minerals or metals, right? Because minerals are metals, metals are minerals. They have to be at the right charge so that the valence that our bodies can utilize and recognize. A very common one to really talk through is chromium. Chromium is really essential for blood sugar metabolism, in a lot of supplements, but that's chromium at a 3+ charge, not chromium at a 6+ charge. So then when you're looking at and evaluating nutrients and supplements, when we're running through stuff, we're getting that stuff checked to see how much is it chromium 3+ versus chromium 6+. And because then you have to label it because it's toxic at a 6+ charge versus a 3+ charge where it's not toxic. Copper is the same way, right? You hear like, oh, I'm copper toxic, but then it can be copper deficient because they don't have the right kind of copper. Copper coming from a copper pipe or an IUD is not the right valence or charge that your body, your cells utilize. It's a 2+, is 3+, is a 4+. There's a variety of valences that it can exist at. And so that's where the misnomer a lot of times in heavy metals. People don't understand why heavy metals are toxic, or if they're all toxic, which they're not. It's like arsenic at specific charges or in specific compounds is more toxic than arsenic that's at another, in another combination with another element in charge. And that goes for all metals and minerals in the body. And so it's when people just throw out there and pound their chest like King Kong that heavy metals are bad, it's like, well, be more specific, because you're not eating mercury or you're not eating arsenic. It's always in a combination with another element in another compound that makes it worse than another one.
Absolutely. Wow.
And then you go into the chemicals, the same thing with chemicals. So in whether it's Forever Chemical or all these sprays and all these other 46,000 and 86,000 chemicals, it's how they interact with the elements within our own body. So for example, in the mitochondria, we have the electron transport chain. So if you guys go back to chemistry in high school, for all your listeners, we have this process in there. It's called Krebs cycle, and then the electron transport chain. At the end of the electron transport chain, the whole goal is to take phosphorus and combine it with ADP to make ATP, which is the fuel. That's the whole goal of this whole process. And that fuel is going to then feed to be able to be building blocks and to feed all these enzymatic reactions to make all the things that you need in your body. Now, in that process, there's multiple complexes where this electron goes from one to the next. In those complexes or enzymes, that's what gets inhibited by these chemicals. So then all of a sudden now you can't get that electron across to then make ATP, and so it blocks all these enzymes, or can couple certain parts too. So there's complex 3 and 4. They have a sulfur iron complex that mercury could come in and bump off the iron and attach to the sulfur, and now it creates free radicals and it messes up the whole complex too. Chemicals can just completely go in there and jack that up, and then now you have all these free radicals bouncing around, ripping apart your mitochondria, and then you're not functioning as at the high level that you should. And all your organs need energy, especially your liver. All right, your liver has 2,000 mitochondria per cell. Your heart has 5,000. Your brain has 10,000. Parts of your brain have 2 million mitochondria per cell. It requires a lot of energy to function. And so when we're looking at, say, adrenal fatigue, which may not really exist, but is a mitochondrial dysfunction, or you're looking at like, hey, my liver's function's not really well. I can't detox. I can't take products. I have no energy. My hormones are really low. My thyroid's really low. My neurotransmitters, like everything's kaput. It's probably a mitochondrial problem. That without that energy, then you do that. And for myself, with the severe fatigue issues I had in my 40s, when I cleared those toxins out, taking these binders, then my life totally changed around in 2 months.
Wow. So actually, this is a great time to take a really quick pause break. We're going to go to a commercial. We'll be right back. Stay put. Welcome back. And hopefully you were able to keep up. That was a lot of chemistry and a lot of like big stuff that we spoke about. But the overarching, message was that one of the biggest forms of ways we get forever chemicals and a lot of other nasty pollutants is in our water. And Dr. Todd Watts was explaining to us the benefits of distilled water and why he's a big, advocate for distilled water. I haven't gone that route yet myself. I've been drinking hydrogen water for a little while from Synergy Sciences, but I've heard your talk before on this before, and I was wondering if you were going to bring it up today. So I was like, oh, cool. And since I actually last spoke with you I loved your last talk. I can't remember the doctor's name that you had on, but you guys went more into the carnivore way, and I never thought that I would be swayed to try that again. And I've been living a more carnivore type lifestyle ever since your guys' talk. So you guys just have a really beautiful way of taking bigger, more complex, more controversial topics, right? And kind of distilling it down to a really, like, I even had a client push back on me, and I had that replay and I sent it to her. And of course, after she listened to you guys, she was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I said it and she was, giving me all kinds of crusty eyes, but I sent, you guys talking, and she was like, oh, this is incredible. But I just, thank you for the work that you guys are putting out there, because like I said, you take really complex things and you're able to distill it down to a really beautiful way to understand.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's distilled water thing. Sure, if you're really worried about the minerals and you're not eating foods that have minerals in them, which are bioavailable, then add some plant-based minerals into your water.
Pretty easy to see, right?
It's not going to, then you'll assimilate those nutrients because it's plant-derived and your body doesn't know what to do with it. But man, I tell you, I've had some really great breakthroughs on people and their health that we couldn't figure out until they switched over to distilled water. Our foods are probably worse than the water is, right? The biggest toxin exposure we have in our life is our food. Eating at our restaurants, just all the processed stuff is full of chemicals. And atrazine being one of those that is causing massive problems, especially in the young generation. And then, there's a book written by a doctor called Estrogeneration. And it's how it's driving estrogen up so high in men. Testosterone is dropping like crazy. I mean, you look at the testosterone levels of men today versus 40 years ago or 50 years ago, it's dramatically changed. And it's because of all these chemicals that are inhibiting and or converting over the testosterone to estrogen, estrogenizing really essentially this generation. I mean, I see kids 10 years old, always overweight, that have severe, gynecomastia. And it's like, how do we have such a severe obesity population when, I grew up in the 70s, and, you go to the beach and you didn't see these problems that you have today. And it's not, I don't think it's the fault of the, people that are, but it's the food that they're poisoning us with. It really goes back to they are poisoning the food supply that then causes and drives these problems, changes the epigenetic expression, changes the microbiome, which then it makes it really hard to lose weight, or if you lose weight, it's really hard to keep off.
Yeah, there's a whole new, fancy word out there called obesogens, right? And it's those toxins that are keeping you fat, because that's where we store toxins, right? So when our toxins become overloaded, it's crazy. It's like that old analogy of the frog in the pot of water, right? To where if you throw a frog, into boiling water, he's going to jump out. But if you just slowly turn up the heat, little by little by little by little, you can cook them to death. right? And I feel like that's what's been going on in our nation for the past 20, 30, 40 years, right? Is that they've just been slowly cranking the dial on this, and so many people, and then now with these freaking pharmaceutical commercials that we're constantly bombarded with on the TV, right? We don't even recognize that symptoms are no longer normal, right? That they're always
Yeah.
your body's response saying there's something going on in here, but we just take a piece of tape and we cover up that check engine light, right? And we keep on driving until something bigger happens. And that's part of the reason why I like, having people like you on, and why I put this out there, is because people need to hear this information, and they need to start taking a look around and going, holy shit.
Yeah.
Something got to change, right?
Well, it's interesting because I dealt with my mom on this, and I'm a thinner guy, and I'm 54, I'll be 55 this year. My mom struggled with weight, and she lose 100 pounds, and she gained it back plus more. And as I was learning through this process over the years, multiple times that happened. Think about what happens when you're toxic, and she had all these metals in her mouth, and then probably other things exposed over the years. But the problem is the toxins store in your fat. You lose the fat. That amount of toxins that you have now is a lot more dense. So you have to detox when you lose weight. If you don't detox when you lose weight, the body's going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm super toxic now because I have a lot less fat to then distribute that into. I need to then put it back in, put it back on so that I can, dilute that toxic load. So, what I learned over the process as a doctor and working with family members stuff is that you have to go through detox as you lose weight to be able to keep it off, and then also then focus in on how can we change then and restore the microbiome and restore the epigenetic expression that the chemicals changed.
Absolutely. So what are some of the products that you've developed to kind of help detox some of these, more nastier stuff from our environment? Because there are things that we can do to avoid, we can drink distilled water. You can get, shower head filters. You can try to eat organic and stay away from restaurants and seed oils. But sometimes life is just life, and we're still going to get bombarded with some of these toxins. So how, what have you cooked up, and what can we use to kind of help support our body in that way?
So like you said, we have to breathe, we have to eat, and we have to drink to exist. And all of those are exposures to toxins. And so therefore there's no avoiding it in today's world. So we've created products that you can get with Heather here, and these products are designed to help support the organs that allow you to clear the toxins out. So the whole point of that is if you try to detox and your drainage pathways aren't open, which is the natural way your body should work, then there's going to be a problem with that. And so we support those organs, make sure the bowels are moving, make sure your liver is functioning well and your kidneys functioning well, the bile flow is moving, your lymphatics are moving, and then we support the energy production so that then it'll take energy to do this work. And then from there, we provide the charged particles, which will help neutralize the toxins, and the bioactive carbons, the carbon technology, and the binders that will help to bind and clear these toxins out of the body. And so there's parts of them that will clear out of the gut, of other parts that will go more systemic to clear toxins out that get more systemic in our bodies. And by supporting the biological processes, the success rate is much better. So we've helped a lot of people, whether it's environmental toxins, heavy metals, and mold toxicity, biotoxins that come from Lyme disease and different things that we support the natural processes in the body to clear that stuff out and have it work the way it needs to.
Is there a way to, because I know like with Lyme disease and certain mold species, they can actually open up the blood-brain barrier. So when that type of stuff happens, is there a way or a product that you can use that will actually help, detox the brain as well? Because, we've spoken a little bit about the liver and the kidneys, but, what about the brain?
There's a couple products that are really good with that are in our line, right? And so one is the CT minerals and the other one's the BC-ATP. And that we've had a lot of success with seeing people take those products and support their processes to clear that out, use the information, and clear toxins.
How does your CT minerals differ from like the plant-based minerals that you were talking about? Or like if we think about, trace minerals in the blue bottle, we're all familiar with that. So how does CT minerals differ from that?
So CT minerals is a fulvic based type mineral, and which is a plant derived mineral. So it has they are trace amounts as well, and then we have added into it products, a couple of different magnesium types. One's magnesium malate, which is really great with the research with muscles and the heart and things that are all more muscular based type things, very highly absorbable. And then a magnesium acetyltaurinate, which is really great for the brain. Magnesium is needed to be able to make energy as well as be able to utilize that molecule, the ATP molecule as well. So if you're deficient in magnesium, then it's going to be really hard to be able to even use the energy that you're trying to use and that you're making.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah, I just recently started off two Lyme mold clients on like the foundation protocol. And, that protocol is supposed to be the most gentle and where you start. And I'm still having some issues with them, like having Herx type responses. Like, is that typical? Have you noticed that before? And if so, like, what can you kind of do to mitigate that type of response?
So with mitigating responses on going through the whole Lyme disease, it's just starting really slow with some of these, and using a little bit of the binders, a little bit of the CT minerals is a really good place to start. And if they're reacting to that, then you're looking at the BC-ATP, which has different molecules, and those will all help to typically downregulate it. Another thing that I found helps well is the IFC. So that's the product that has a lot of the plants and the vegetables and fruits and things in there that are designed, the herbs that are designed to help support inflammation.
You said IFC?
IFC. Okay. It used to be called inflammatory control, but we call it IFC.
Oh, gotcha.
And I have people that had struggled a little bit with taking some of the binders. I added the IFC in there, and boom, they didn't have a problem taking the
binders. Interesting. Awesome. And then, so what are a few more? So obviously, so you said the biggest one that we get, these forever chemicals would be in our water. Next source would be our food. So what's another big source that we can get these type of chemicals from?
Well, when you're looking at just your general environment, you can see how, like you talked about before, it's not only your water source, but it's also on your furniture, it can clothes, right? It can be in carpet, especially when you're building a new place, there can be a lot of that as well.
Is there anything you can do to help off-gas that type of thing? Because I know you're getting ready to move into a new home. So what kind of things are you going to be able to do to kind of help offset some of that off-gassing?
So that's a good question. In my case, it's taken forever to build my house, so it's already off gas for the past year. And then also the other thing is the materials you choose to use. I choose to use materials that don't have all the chemicals. So it just goes back to a lot of the choices. We have very little carpet in our house. So we want more natural wood floors and things that could have the chemicals in them. And the furniture you look at, just being more organic based stuff. I got the new beds, and it's all organic based type bed, so there's not chemicals. And a guy that I met, he has some really great research on just like how much better people sleep in on the set of beds. Essentia is a company, ESSENTIA.
Say that again.
Essentia. ESSENTIA. So I bought beds for all we spend more time there than anywhere else. Yeah, so right. I bought beds for all my kids and myself, my wife, for those beds, because it's like, okay, I'm going to upgrade the mattresses. This is what we're getting. But back at the forever chemicals, I think plastic wrappers, fast food wrappers have, like I said, the clothes, cosmetics. So you got to be really looking at your cosmetics that you're using. And then I know a big thing was the nonstick cookware for years. Teflon was one of the worst things. I don't know if people really buy Teflon anymore.
They actually renamed it. Oh geez, what the heck is the new name? But it's in the documentary The Devil That We Know.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, such a good documentary. Like I've never been so pissed off and so angry and so sad in my life, but it's that type that fires you up to do things differently. But yes, so 3M stopped making Teflon and DuPont, but Teflon kept making it, but it's coming out as another name. So you have to kind of look for that other name now. Kind of like the way, MSG has got many different names.
Right.
Yeah, so they didn't stop necessarily making it. They just put it underneath another name. So just avoid nonstick, right? Nonstick stuff, period. Like it's just going to be toxic.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good documentary. Have you seen that one?
I don't know that I've seen that one.
Yeah, The Devil That We Know. It's
Right now.
crazy.
I'll go back and look at it.
Yeah, all about
I've seen so
Teflon.
many. I've seen so many.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's interesting that you learn from them all, but you can't believe them all, unfortunately.
This is true. This is true.
Otherwise, we'd all be vegans if that was the case.
Oh God. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just like any other media out there, you've got to really be careful and know that the source is credible and that they don't have some wicked slant, to what they're putting out there for sure. Because yeah, like I said, it's taken me a long time to even wrap my brain around, carnivore or how it could even work, and after you guys presented the material, I was just like, huh. But yeah, after Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead and a couple other of those that came out that were kind of promoting a more vegetable based, plant lifestyle. And yeah, I thank God I can't get over how, I mean, just in the short month that I've been eating this way, I haven't lost a whole lot of weight, which really kind of annoys me. But man, my brain has been working better, a lot less pain, I'm always kind of that histamine, right, type person that gets inflamed really easy because of my history with mold and Lyme. And, I thought I had it dialed in pretty good, but I was like, wow, like I am literally in no pain right now. And I have never been able to say that. So thank you for the drop in the seeds on the carnivore diet.
So remember so here's a good thing about the chemicals. Like if you want to watch one documentary about these chemicals and how somebody's life and health is going to change, watch it. Super Size Me.
Oh,
Eat McDonald's for 30 days and see how badly that affects somebody's body.
yep.
It's horrible to see how many diseases they get in literally 30 days. And then if you change your diet and you eat healthy, you exercise, and it's the solution. Eat clean food, drink clean water, and try exercise. Movement is life. Is that what I tell people? Exercise, is so important with that. And then also how you think, man. How you think, Heather, is how you are. Your physiology expresses it. If you're always thinking negative, then you're going to express negative physiology and hormones and stress in your life. So you have to approach things in that multifaceted way. And then also like sauna therapy, like getting into hot saunas and sweating is really, really, really good for your body.
I will never live without my some sort of sauna. Like I have a sauna blanket that I've been using for 2 years, and I will never ever be without a sauna again. Like that was one of the biggest game changers in my health journey, as far as releasing that toxic bucket that I was just overloaded. Like sweating is key, especially those of us that sit here for work and we don't move as often as we should, to move that lymph, to get that detox. Sweating is another great way to kind of help that process.
Absolutely.
Awesome sauce. Well, man, thank you again so much for being here. Is there kind of any last little nugget or anything you want to leave folks with?
Yeah, I think if you're really struggling in your health, the thing is don't give up. I mean, mine was a 10-year journey, and through this process, I learned a lot. And
So sorry. Wait. Say that again. A 10-year journey?
A 10-year journey, yes.
Wow. Yeah, Dr. Rawls talks about his being 2 to 5. So many folks are looking for that quick fix, and then they balk at me when I tell them about CellCore being a 9-month protocol. I'm like, baby, that's just the beginning of your journey. We're like just scratching the surface, but it takes time. Most of us weren't sick, have been sick for longer than a couple of years. It's going to take time to get better. So thank you for putting out a realistic expectation and actually making a realistic protocol, right, for folks, and not kind of this marketing crap of quick fix type things. So I appreciate that as well.
You have to get the body to work properly. And thing is, it goes back to what quality of life do you want? And anything worth having is going to take time and effort. And, there again, I talk about where I am at today. I feel so much better now than I've done in the last 15, 20 years. And you could say, hey, sometimes this struggle, the quote I used to use is the gift is in the struggle. The struggle will get you to where you need to be in life. And if you approach it with that positive attitude, then what's going to happen is you're going to realize that then you're going to be so much better prepared to help others in their struggle. And what happens if life's easy, then we're not able to accomplish much. Right? We're not pushed to get to raise to the level of the heights that we really truly are designed for.
Absolutely. It was one of the best lines that I remember from a pastor years ago. And he said, you don't grow up on easy street, right? Like, and even plants or even anything, like a little bit of stress is needed, right? For us to grow into the people and to do the things that we're supposed to do. So thank you for bringing in the mindset piece as well, because that's another one that I'm constantly trying to hit home. And so many folks are kind of like, oh, what supplement can I take for blah, 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 blah. And I go, well, I don't know. Have you done your meditations and your breath work this week? And they're like, no. And I'm like, maybe go back and try that. And then after a week of doing that, then talk to me about this. And it took a few times for this one particular person to get it, but it was funny when it did click, it clicked. And I was just like, I'm not going to continue to just give you another supplement after another supplement. Like, you got to dial in this mindset and this lifestyle piece. Otherwise, you're just building on top of a really shaky foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with that. It's just exercise alone is probably one of the most impactful things people can do. But we get to the point where we can't. I mean, I couldn't exercise for almost 10 years.
Wow.
So I was so tired and fatigued, and I had some injuries that I couldn't recover from. But as I was able to clear all this stuff out of my body, from parasites, toxins, and the Lyme and everything, boom, my health changed, and I was able to do it again.
Awesome sauce. Well, thank God for what you do. You're such a blessing, and I love you. I love your company. I love your protocols and everything you're putting out there. So again, thank you for joining me one more time. And I hope people love this episode as much as I do. And make sure to visit TheLymeBoss.com, go to the resource section, and you'll see the CellCore label there. There's a little practitioner code that you have to use. You have to work with a practitioner in order to buy supplements. So you can use that code to order, or you can actually set up a little 15-minute call with me to see what would be the best route for you to go. So that way you're not throwing money at a wall and seeing what sticks, because he's a lot of beautiful products to choose from, but they're not always, the appropriate thing at the appropriate time. So make sure to reach out and find out more, and have a healthy day.